Welcome to another episode of the Tough Stuff Podcast.
Be sure to like, love, share, or subscribe wherever you may be watching or listening, because we believe God wants to bring encouragement and hope through these stories.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Dani, and today on June 30th, we're celebrating Dani Day. We have a whole day picked out just for her. She's one of our survivors on the Sparrow Foundation, and so today, as an organization, we honor her and we celebrate her for her story. We're so excited. Dani, tell us, what does Dani Day mean to you?
Freedom Day, which
Freedom Day.
been 8 years. Yeah, it's been 8 years.
8 years, and can you tell us, it's been 8 years since what?
Since I was rescued by the Sheriff's Office, Teenage Parish.
What I wanted to do on this episode was give Dani space to share her story so that as a collective, we can all lean in and listen and just see what all has happened to her and just how amazing she is. And so Dani, let's talk about, how did I meet you? Do you remember?
Was this is the podcast.
This is the podcast. I met you. You were chosen to be part of a documentary by PBS. And the first day that I met you.
Shout out to Karen Swinson.
Karen Swinson, shout out. We love you, Karen. But I remember that is where I met you. I had just joined the Sparrow team, and my very first assignment on the team was to be a part of this interview that you were a part of, and you got to tell your story to probably thousands of people on PBS about what you've been through, and that was just so amazing and courageous of you to sit there and do that. And that's the first day I met you. And then I got to hang out with you again because we had the opportunity to go see the premiere together of the documentary. And so I'm going to put the link in the show notes so that you guys can go watch it. I can't think of the name right off the top of my head.
It's called Turning the Tide.
Turning the Tide. And so I'll link it in the show notes so you guys can watch that too.
But when you watch, you gotta make sure you have tissues because you're gonna cry.
Tissues, you're gonna cry. That's so true. Dani, you there's a lot of things that are a part of your story. I know you have autism. You're very passionate about raising awareness for autism.
Special needs. I'm all big on special needs.
Big on special needs. You're very passionate. I think you're probably the most passionate person I know about just raising awareness for everything.
Be kind to everyone.
Be kind to everyone. It's like I feel like every month is a different month that you honor a group of people and you raise awareness for that group. You have such a big heart. So anyway, as we get into your story, I do want to say I actually knew who you were before I met you. Did you know that? So whenever I saw a news article that had you in it, I pieced together your story with that news article, and I said, I know that girl, I read about her. And so it would be an honor if you feel comfortable to share your story of what happened and then where you're at today and all that you're doing to help people. You have overcome a lot of odds to get to where you are today. And so it's amazing to me that you're sitting right here with me. I love it. So tell us a little bit about your story. I know you talked about your mom.
So I'm going to start with June 26, 2016. The sheriff's office, they got it, actually not the sheriff's office, the game warden got the call to come out to Amy, Louisiana, where I was living at the time, and they didn't know if it was going to be a human or an animal. So when they got the call, they set up surveillance. They didn't have enough to rescue me that day. Then a few days later, June 29th, my mom came to me in the dream and said that you're going to be okay, you're going to be rescued. And then that day, June 30th, 2016, they came out and rescued me.
They rescued you. Wow, that's amazing. It's just incredible to know that You were given that dream of your mom, because there you were in a very scary situation.
I was hopeful.
You were, it gave
Helpless.
you hope. You were helpless, and then that dream, it gave you hope.
Because I was told if the police ever showed up, they would come and arrest me because they said I killed my mom.
Oh, wow. Just so much confusing circumstances, so much abuse done to you, and on this day, you were rescued. And so today we celebrate, and we want you, our viewers, to celebrate with us Dani Day as we kind of talk about your story. So let's talk about your mom.
Well, mom was a single mom, put me through school. She's not here anymore. She's been gone for 9 years. So the holidays are hard without her. But I know she will want me to be happy. So I surround myself with positivity people.
There you go.
And if you're negative, you're not in my life. I got a circle. If you're in the circle, you're part of my life. If you're out of the circle, you're negative. I don't need you.
It sounds like you got boundaries.
Yes, I have boundaries. But even though people don't respect my boundaries, I have to put them like, no.
You have had to learn how to push through a lot of hard things. And so the nature of this podcast is called Tough Stuff Podcast. It's all about...
We toughies. Shout out to Chris.
We toughies. Shout out to Chris. You know, the nature of this podcast is that...
Chris, I hope you watch this, honey.
Chris, it was you here. The nature of this podcast is that we want to talk about how people go through hard things in life, and you can't look the other way when somebody is going through something hard. And so, you know, you've been through really hard circumstances, some of the worst that I've ever heard. And the fact that you're sitting here today, willing to share your story so that other people can have hope, is a really amazing thing to me. I just admire your strength. I admire just your resilience in this moment to talk to our toughies on the other side of the camera. And so I'm going to open the floor up for you if you want to talk about your story, if you want to talk about autism, you know, whatever you want to talk about.
So in the documentary, it said that I, was an orphan at 15. I just want to clarify that that's the year I was orphaned. And that's not how old I am. I was 22 at the time.
22 at the time. And so your mom passed
when I was 21.
When you were 21. And so that's kind of what led you into the predicament that you were in, right? You went to stay with relatives.
They were cousins at the time.
Okay.
But, I thought they loved me. So I was, brainwashed. But they were mistreating me.
Very much mistreating you. They kept you in the backyard. They made you do things you didn't want to do.
They made me eat my mama's ashes. Even in the documentary it says that. But watch the documentary.
Yeah, the documentary, by the way, which... again, is linked in the show notes. It's going to go into more detail into the nature of her story, which is very horrific and very painful to talk about. So
when you watch it, make sure you have tissues.
Make sure you have tissues. So, Dani, you are this advocate for trafficking.
Yes.
Let's see. Let's talk about all the things that you're an advocate for. Trafficking, domestic violence, autism, special needs, mental health, all those kind of things. Those are all things that are personal to you. And so talk to me about, your love for raising awareness. Talk to me about what drives you to be passionate about this.
What makes me be passionate is spreading awareness, being kind to others. You don't know what somebody else went through. They can be having a bad day. You could be like, hey, I'm here for you. When it's, it's hard. Because there's so many hateful people in the world. And, that's what I'm so passionate about.
Because when you look at you, Dani, just from an outside perspective, I don't know that you've been through all the things that you've been through. And so you're carrying a lot emotionally as a person, physically, and so it's one of those things you're so good at reminding people of. hey, make sure you see everyone for who they are and give people grace because you don't know what they have gone through. Because you've gone through some incredibly horrific things and you made it to the other side. And you're a survivor. You're a toughie and you're thriving. And I love it.
So, if you asked me 8 years ago, where would I be today? I couldn't answer that. Because, you know, I wouldn't be here. You know, I wouldn't be, you know, someone's friend, someone's mom, someone's girlfriend.
Oh, shout out to the boyfriend.
But yeah, you know, but I wouldn't be any of that, you know, but.
Yes. And another thing that's amazing to me about your story, Dani, is that you went to trial and testified. And I want to talk about that because Miss Alice Cole, which if you don't know, she is over the Sparrow Foundation.
We call her Big Mama.
We call her Big Mama. She made you feel comfortable enough to tell your story. And I want to hear from you, like, how did that go?
So when I first met Big Mama, I'm calling her Big Mama, and, you know, my survivor sister, Michelle, we went in this room. We was at the Healing Place Church. So they, you know, our color, you know, she's like, we gonna sit here, we just gonna color.
Because you were having a hard time expressing what had happened to you. And so Big Mama came and said, well, how about we just color? And so you were like, okay. And so what happened next?
We color. You know, Michelle was saying words that triggered me, but now you look at it like this, they don't trigger me.
Wow. And so...
Because when you say the word social worker, I'm like, okay, they're going to put me away. But they can't. Or you say caseworker, you know.
Those words are so... You've had a bad experience with those words. And so when you hear those words, sometimes it can make you feel triggered or frozen, almost scared. And so you're coloring with Big Mama. Who's in the room? Was this the meeting with the FBI? Yes. Yes. So this is the meeting with the FBI. They're asking you your story because they're, you know, building a case. And so you started coloring, and for the first time, you shared your story of what happened. Which, again, please go watch the documentary. It's linked in the show notes. Her story is incredible. What was done to her was just horrific, and the way that she testified against her traffickers is an unbelievable story. So you went to court and you testified.
Yes.
How did that feel?
It was nervous, cause I thought it was like gonna be like on TV. We done it one day, but it's not like it's on TV like they do in one day. It kept dragging out, and then it was like, come on, it ever gonna end?
But you got up there and you were brave, which is, I mean, I don't know how you did it. That's amazing. Now, what's so crazy about all of your court appearances is that you had to go to not only, you know, state court, but federal court. So you visited court, gosh, so many times, having to testify, because I believe there were 5 perpetrators that you were up against. And you had to go and speak that many times.
I had to go 10 times.
10 times.
To go speak on it. And I said, you know, when I became pregnant, okay.
Yeah, what if you became pregnant?
So I became pregnant. I said, you know, I'm like, I don't care if my water breaks in the courthouse, I'm going.
You're going, because you're going to go lock those people up for what they did to you. Now, tell me, how did it go, like, having to go on the stand? Gosh, 10 different times. How was that? Was that scary? Was that, I mean, that's a pretty amazing that you did that.
You know, it was hard. Before, I wasn't pregnant at the time, but in the middle of it, I became, you know, pregnant. And so I was kind of like, when I found out, I'm going to talk about that. So, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's talk.
So, when I found out I was pregnant, it was like, March 12th. And I'm like, what am I going to do with a baby? You know, no vehicle or anything. You know, I didn't know adoption was an option. So I called Michelle and I was like, what do I just found out I'm pregnant? So I was like nervous and all that. And I found, blessed people, amazing people to care for my daughter, to raise my daughter. And she would be 5 in July.
Wow.
And it's amazing. If you can't provide for someone, for a baby, there's the adoption. Always put them up, don't go and mistreat them.
Yeah, that's such a courageous decision that you had to make.
I was 25 at the time.
25. How old are you now?
I'm 30 years old. Almost 31.
30 years old, girl. Okay, so we've talked about, your trial. We've talked about your situation. We've talked about, how you're passionate about all these different things. Talk to us about, what does Dani want to do, like, in the future? Like, obviously, the things that you've been through are, like, they can be used by God to help other people. And so, talk to me about what you want to do.
Continue to share my story. Maybe, like, couple years down the road, go to different states and share my story. Be a part of the Sparrow Foundation officially. Gotta have my team. But first I gotta get my driver's license in the car.
Hey, driver's license in a car. It's been 8 years since you were rescued, and you're doing amazing, and I love to see all that's going on. Is there anything else you want to share?
I like to shout out my supporters, my amazing boyfriend.
What's his name?
His name is Jacob. But yeah, I want to thank God. If it wasn't for, him, I wouldn't have been here. My mom, my friends, I did this for my baby girl. Did it for Grace.
And you, at this point in your life, this is like the second thing that you're sharing your story. This is like the second microphone that you've got in front of you that you're sharing your story. And I think about how many people are going to be impacted by your bravery, by what you've been through, your positive outlook. I mean, look at you, like, helping people left and right. I think about the way that you care so much about what's right and what's wrong and how to treat people. And I think we have so much to learn from you as it relates to how to see people, how to listen to people, how to care for people. If there was is there anything you want to talk about with autism or domestic violence? If there was anybody listening maybe that maybe knows somebody or has autism, what would you say?
So autism doesn't define you. You look at autism, you don't look at it as a disability. You look at it as ability. We all unique. People think we have superpowers. We don't. But people are so hateful. I'm not doing this for people to feel sorry for me. I'm not trying to want people to feel sorry for me. I want people to be like, I'm proud of you.
Yes.
I don't want people to be like, if you lower someone's self-esteem, you make them feel bad about themselves. At times, it's not easy. At times, I do want to give up. But then I'm like, no, you're not giving up. Keep moving.
Keep moving. Because even though you were rescued 8 years ago, you still are dealing with some things that are from back then, even in your present day, whether that's like in your mental health or
physical health.
Your physical health. And so just this whole idea that, people are walking around and you don't know what they've been through. And so I love that you're talking about that.
Okay, with domestic violence and human trafficking, if you see something out of the ordinary, I think that's a word, say something. Don't be afraid. Speak up. Because you can help save someone's life. People think with human trafficking, I didn't think it was going to happen to me, but it did. And people think it's a joke, but it's not a joke. It's real. It's happening all over the world. But it's hard. If you see something out of the ordinary, say something.
What would you say? Like, what would your advice be for like anybody? What do people need to look for?
Signs of domestic violence. Being kidnapped, held against their will. Something that don't look like you think of people out to get you. You following you and something like that.
Yeah, and so it was
just do the help sign with the hands.
So it was because of the game warden that saw you.
Shout out to him, Toby Miller.
He saw you in the backyard and recognized something's not right, which is what you're saying.
They couldn't see me the way it was made, and that's in the documentary too. So.
Yes, go watch the documentary. It's got a lot. But you're saying, watch out for things that don't look right, and that's exactly what he did that day. He noticed something is not right here, and he put in a report, and they found you. And so, thank God. I'm so thankful that you're doing well. I'm thankful that you're using your voice to share your story, and that you're not ashamed of your story. You're proud of who you are.
And people don't know much about it. They will try to tell me, no, don't do that. I'm doing it. I'm being me. I'm doing me.
Yes, ma'am. You're saying people might have been nervous for you to do a podcast or something?
Anything, because they be hating.
Oh, they be hating?
And jealous, but...
Jealous. Dani, you are something else. This has been such a fun episode. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Brent Sledge, now he's a Judge Sledge. If it wasn't for him helping, me putting the people away, they would still be out there doing other things.
Yes. And now you're living in a safe place. And, you're walking towards...
I'm from Louisiana.
From Louisiana. You're working towards...
I'm not saying where I live because it's not people's business.
Yeah, don't say where you live.
I'm saying I'm from Louisiana.
She's from Louisiana, but she is an Alabama fan.
Yes.
Which almost disqualified her from this podcast.
We ain't gonna add that.
So
I hope you don't add that.
You're doing good. You're starting to get to a place where you're living your life. You're thriving. You're working on finding healing emotionally and physically. And then to top it off, you're also trying to raise awareness for all of the things that you've been through because you were overlooked. And so it sounds like now you're passionate about looking for the overlooked, those that are in the shadows, those that are overlooked, that are, nobody is noticing where they are. And I think that is such a beautiful display, even of God's love, that you would be so interested in those people because people were interested in you. And so I love where you're headed. I love the future. I cannot wait to celebrate Dani Day, by the way.
AKA Freedom Day.
Freedom Day, Dani Day, June 30th. And so as we wrap this up, you got anything else? No? You ready to end it? Okay. Well, like we always say on this podcast, life can be tough, but God is still so good.